What do you make of North Korea's reinvigorated relations with Russia and the timing of this visit?
Well, I mean, North Korea has certainly seen a wonderful opportunity for itself in Russia's isolation from the world. North Korea has long been heavily dependent upon China. Even if Russia can pick up 5, 8, 10% of North Korean trade, that's a big benefit for the North Koreans. And the Russians are talking about finding ways for both countries to bypass Western sanctions and any Western financial restrictions. So that potentially gives North Korea access to new flows of economic activity, not only with Russia, but potentially internationally. I think the timing of the visit, it's a reciprocal visit. So the Russians are thanking the North Koreans. Putin was hours and hours late, so he showed up super early in the morning and made Kim have to come out and meet him at the airport. So it wasn't a perfectly meeting at the very beginning. But the timing is also useful, I think, as Russia has announced recently that with NATO talking about expanding its interaction in Ukraine, Russia has announced it's going to start expanding its interaction with countries that counter the United States or counter the West. And this is a very clear showing through this visit.
Of course, all of this also comes back to what each side can do for each other. And what we know is that North Korea has become an arms supplier for Putin's war in Ukraine. So what do we know about the weapons that are being provided here? And what is the size and scope of this weapons and technology transfer relationship?
So when you think about the weapons that the North Koreans are providing, in some sense, it doesn't significantly increase the Russian capability or the Russian capacity. As we've just heard, the Russians have been ramping up their own production. They're running at fairly high numbers of production. But what the North Koreans are supplying is artillery rounds, rocket artillery, and some short-range ballistic missiles for use on the battlefield. There have been all sorts of reports of these being not great quality, but I think that as the North Korean stock is utilized, the North Koreans are going to be learning, improving the quality of what they're performing. On what are the Russians giving the North Koreans? We would expect them to be doing things that are going to relate to, for example, North Korean satellite technology, maybe some of the North Korean missile capabilities. And the North Koreans, for example, look like they're preparing to test their submarine-launched ballistic missile. That's something they would want to get additional technology from the Russians. But mostly what the North Koreans may be getting from the Russians is just food and fuel, particularly refined fuel, which is something that North Korea needs significant amounts of.